a moment of silence, then the Pledge of Allegiance, led by, wait a minute, Council Youth Liaison Michael Helt. Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Yes, Mayor Barrett.
Here.
Vice Mayor Ames.
Here.
Councilmember Rivera.
Here.
Councilmember Patena.
Here.
Councilmember Edwards.
Here.
Councilmember Toma.
Here.
Councilmember Leone.
Here.
Council Liaison Mullane.
Here.
And Council Liaison Helt.
This is the final call to submit speaker request forms. The speaker request forms can be found in the lobby. Fill them out, give them to the city clerk, and we will call upon you at the appropriate time. First up is the presentations, Women's Club 100th Anniversary Proclamation. And the proclamation says, whereas the GFWC Peoria West Valley Women's Club was organized as the Peoria Embroidery Club in 1914, became Peoria Civic Women's Club in 1917, was admitted to the General Federation of Women's Clubs, Arizona Central District in 1917, admitted to the General Federation of Women's Clubs, Arizona in 1918, and became a part of the General Federation of Women's Clubs in 1923. And whereas the cornerstone was laid and the clubhouse was built in 1990, and in 1960, the clubhouse was given to the city of Peoria. And whereas the GFWC, Peoria West Valley Women's Club members started the Peoria Public Library in the clubhouse in 1921, and subsequently the library was presented to the city of Peoria. And whereas the GFWC, Peoria West Valley Women's Club, is committed to community service through donations to local food banks, and whereas GFWC, Peoria West Valley Women's Club, is committed to education by supporting the Hugh O'Brien Leadership Workshops for high school sophomores, literacy, and libraries, and whereas GFWC, Peoria West Valley Women's Club, is committed to stamping out domestic violence by supporting local domestic violence shelters, and whereas GFWC, Peoria West Valley Women's Club, is committed to our military by supporting packages from home and also continue to support other organizations such as Operation Smile, Salvation Army, Christmas Angels, and Heifer International. And whereas GFWC, Peoria West Valley Women's Club, provides caring support for local citizens by providing cards to nursing home residents, and whereas GFWC, Peoria West Valley Women's Club, is committed to conservation by planting trees and recycling and supports the arts through donations and visiting local museums. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Bob Barrett of Peoria, do hereby recognize and celebrate the 100th anniversary of the GFWC Peoria West Valley Women's Club, recognizing all members' positive impact on our city. Thank you. Next is a presentation of Community Services National Accreditation.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. On behalf of the Community Services Department, I am honored to formally announce that we have, as the City of Peoria, become an accredited agency through the National Recreation and Park Association, and specifically the Commission on the Accreditation of Parks and Recreation Agencies. We're the 5th in the state, joining Scottsdale, Glendale, Tucson, and Mesa, and it's quite the accomplishment for our department and the entire team. I'd like to take a moment and extend my appreciation and sincere regard for several key people. First, the citizens of Peoria, all of those that participate in programs like Learn to Swim, sports, the AM/PM program, the families that come out to our amazing special events, those that learn to read, and those that read to learn at our libraries, the spring training baseball fan, our hikers and our bikers, and all of those fitness buffs that are out there. Our hats off as an agency to each and every one of you that come out and enjoy our Parks and Recreation and Library services. A sincere thanks to our Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. Several members are here tonight. Chairman Brian Derrick, Rich Ward, and Bill Collette, and the others spent countless hours working with us to gain the citizens' perspective on what it means to be an accredited agency. Many other departments contributed to the endeavor as well. Police, fire, finance, budget, planning, IT, and of course the city manager's office. Thank you, sir, for your support and leadership in us accomplishing this. All the members of the Community Services team have a role in receiving and maintaining our CAPRA accreditation. And there's a group that were tasked with accomplishing a significant amount associated with the self-assessment and the visitor evaluation. The accreditation core team, made up of Ellen Camella, Maria Calcaterra, Stacy Beadle, Gus Brown, Laura Oxford, Heather Duffett, and Bill Moss, were absolutely incredible and were the core group that helped us to reach this achievement. I want to express my appreciation to Judy Weiss, who's the director of Coconino County Parks and Recreation, for her advisorship. And I'd also like to bring up to the podium to say a few words about the benefits of becoming an accredited Parks and Recreation agency, Mr. Dale Larson. Mr. Larson is past president of the American Academy for Parks and Recreation Administration, current chair of the Commission on Accreditation for Parks and Recreation Agencies, and Dale has provided countless amounts of insight and consultation with several municipal parks and recreation agencies that have sought this formal accreditation, and he will speak to some of those benefits. Thank you.
Mayor Barrett and honorable city council members, I'm most pleased to attend this evening's city council meeting in recognition of your community service department's achievement of national accreditation status. One thing that John didn't mention is that my current position is with Arizona State University. I'm a professor of practice and the director of community relations for the College of Public Programs. And also visiting here this evening, I would like to acknowledge Roberta Magdalena, who is the liaison to the Northwest Valley from ASU, and Bobby, I think, is in the back, right over there. The Commission for Accreditation of Parks and Recreation Agencies, or as John said, CAPRA, establishes rigorous standards for agency compliance. CAPRA consists of several national associations, including the National Recreation and Park Association, the American Academy for Park and Recreation Administration, the National Association of County Park and Recreation Officials, the International City-County Management Association, the American Association for Physical Activity and Recreation, the Armed Forces Recreation Society, since now our military bases also go through a similar accreditation process, and the American Council of State Executive Directors. What John and his phenomenal staff went through is that formal accreditation is based on an agency's compliance of 151 standards. To achieve national accreditation, an agency like the Community Services Department must comply with 37 fundamental standards at 100% and 85% of the remaining 114 standards. And the chapters that they go through include agency authority and planning, organization and administration, human resources, financial management, programs and service management, facility and land use management, public safety, risk management, evaluation, and research. As John said, the City of Peoria Community Services Department is only the 5th community in Arizona, and it's also only one of 137 communities in the country to be accredited. The accreditation process for Director John Sefton and his fabulous department required 3 years of, I wanted to say painless, but painful, intensive self-assessment, documentation, commentary, compliance, visitation, and most critically, peer review. This rigorous process culminated during CAPRA's formal hearing for the City of Peoria at this recently held NRPA Congress in Charlotte, North Carolina in October. The formal recognition of agency accreditation would not be complete, however, without the full support and participation of all the people that John has just recognized. But I would also indicate that it's with the leadership and support from the City Manager's Office and the formal acknowledgement and recognition from Honorable Mayor Barrett and your City Council. Mayor Barrett and esteemed City Council members, my career in municipal park and recreation services as a professional administrator, teacher, author, mentor, participant, and advocate spans more than 40 years. The communities, the parks and recreation agencies in Arizona are jealous of Peoria, Arizona. John and his staff have raised the level. Even in my classes, I say that if you want it to count, you have to count it. Well, John and his staff and the citizens and the volunteers have counted 151 standards, and they came out perfect. For the record, I can positively and unequivocally say that the citizens of Peoria, Arizona, have one of the finest park and recreation agencies in these United States. I am honored to share with you the formal CAPRA National Accreditation recognition for the City of Peoria Community Services Department. Thank you.
Next is the consent agenda. The consent agenda are all items listed with a C. They're considered to be routine or they've been previously reviewed by the council. They will be enacted by one motion unless a council member asks for an item to be removed. Do we have any requests? Hearing none, could I have a motion?
I move we accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Ames, seconded by Mr. Leone. These are items on your agenda from 7C to 24C. Please vote. Clerk will record the vote. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Next item is the regular agenda, unfinished business. We will consider 25R, the master final plat, Alora Vita, Phase 1, 75th Avenue and Joe Max Road, through 30R, which is the final plat, Alora Vita, Phase 1, Parcel 6, 75th Avenue and Joe Max Road, with one motion.
And Chris Hawkes, our Planning and Community Development Director, will make the presentation on this item. And for the record, this is coming back to the council, having been continued from your last meeting.
Yep. Thank you, Carl. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you mentioned, items 25R through 30R pertain to 5 final plats for 5 parcels and a master final plat for a portion of Alora Vita North. For context, Alora Vita North is generally located at the northeast corner of Joe Max Road in the 75th alignment. The Phase 1, the plats that we're considering tonight, are identified in white, and this would, if approved, would be a total of 322 lots that would introduce into this community. So as Carl mentioned, this item was last brought to the council on October 21st. At that time, as you may recall, the Deer Valley Unified School District and the developer were in the process of working through a potential, what's called a developer assistance agreement. So a continuance was granted by the council to afford more time for both entities to work together towards that agreement. I'm happy to report that the developer and the school district, both sides have come to an agreement, and the agreement has gone to the governing board and has been accepted by Deer Valley's School District Governing Board. So while there is no nexus between the developer assistance agreements and the final plats, staff is recommending approval of the final plats as presented on the screen before you, and I'll take any questions you have.
Thank you. Questions, council? Mr. Toma.
Thank you. I would just like to make a statement and thank the applicant and the school district for coming to an agreement on this. It was important for me, especially having, well, since it's in my district and also since I live in West Wing, there is definitely some need for additional education up there, additional educational opportunities. So I want to thank you. I understand that there wasn't legal requirement to do so, but I do appreciate you coming to an agreement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other questions from council, we have one speaker request form. Paul Gilbert.
I'm smart enough to know when to be quiet, Mayor. I have nothing to say.
Thank you very much. Okay. This is let's go through this again here. 25R through 30R, dealing with Alora Vita. Could I have a motion?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Thomas, seconded by Mr. Ames. Please vote. The clerk will record the vote. It is unanimous. Thank you very much. Next, new business, 31R, public hearing, annexation, Armstrong Martin, 89th Avenue and Patrick Lane.
And Chris will make this presentation as well.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Item 31R, this is a request filed on behalf of two property owners to annex into the city of Peoria. The two properties comprise approximately 2.36 acres, and they're located in what we've called the Pinnacle Peak County Island. So looking at the screen, just to orientate you a little bit, Lake Pleasant Parkway is the roadway to the left, the Meadows is the project in the middle, and the county island is identified, if you can make out the brown shading, that's the county island, and then of course the two properties in question are identified in red here. Okay, so more specifically, the lots are located south of the southeast corner of 89th Avenue and Patrick Lane. The lots are currently developed as single-family residential lots in the county, and the existing county zoning is Rural 43, which is essentially a 1-acre lot zoning in the county. Should the county, or should the city rather, elect to annex the lots, the city would apply its most analogous zoning, which we expect to be SR 43, Suburban Ranch 43, which is our 1-acre lot zoning. Okay, this graphic illustrates the annexation process at a glance. As you know, the state statute governing annexation provides for a process. This process requires an initial public hearing this evening. Purpose of the public hearing is to take any testimony, ask any questions, but there is no action that can be taken tonight. Thereafter the hearing, the staff has up to a year to collect signed petitions from the two property owners. Should we be successful in that endeavor, we would come back to the council for a final annexation ordinance. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Questions from the council? Okay. This is a public hearing. It's a public hearing on an annexation, Armstrong Martin, 89th Avenue and Patrick Lane. Would anyone in the audience care to address this issue? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. No action is required on the council. So we'll move on to 32R, public hearing, conditional use permit appeal, 81st Avenue and Country Gables Drive.
And this will be presented by Chris as well.
32R. Right, this is the appeal presentation. Sorry, one second. There we go. Okay, item 32R. This is an appeal filed on behalf of two homeowners of a recent decision by Planning and Zoning Commission decision to grant a conditional use permit for a home-based business for a martial arts studio. Now, as you know, the Planning and Zoning Commission is typically an advisory body wherein they provide recommendations for City Council for consideration. With respect to conditional use permits, they are the decision body. However, our code does provide for a process for an appeal to the City Council. So in this instance, the City Council is the final decision body. So in this case, we had a decision by the Planning and Zoning Commission on October 16th to grant the conditional use permit. The next day, we did receive a valid appeal, as I mentioned, from a few of the property owners in the area. The applicant before you is represented by the law firm of Buse Gilbert on behalf of Tim and Susan Elliott, the homeowners. The site in question is located at 8030 West Country Gables, or rather the northeast corner of Country Gables and 81st Avenue. The site is approximately 1 acre in size, and it contains a residence and 2 outbuildings. You may recall the site, a few council meetings back, was rezoned to SR 43 to bring it into compliance with the area. Separately, the subject building that we'll talk about in a minute was granted a variance for a pre-existing setback condition. Neither case had any bearing or precipitated the conditional use permit that we are considering tonight. Okay, so this graphic illustrates the larger area at a glance. Again, the property is located, identified with the yellow star. It's hard to make out, but the areas south of Country Gables are located within a county island. The property due west of the star in the city is a church, the Redeemed Church of God. Some of the properties to the north and east, like the county island, are essentially a semi-rural character, and then more suburban residential to the north of that. 83rd is to the left on your screen for reference. The graphic also illustrates that if you're looking at the larger area, the area is predominantly residential. However, there are some non-residential uses located within the area. Some non-residential uses are permitted in residential zones, and they include things like schools and churches, which you can see in the area. This graphic also illustrates some of the active home-based business licenses and some of the inactive home-based business licenses within the county island and within the city. So you can see there are a few scattered throughout the area. Home-based business, we'll talk more about this in a minute, but this is pretty common throughout the country to allow a limited business opportunity within a residential district. The idea is that the area is still predominantly residential, and there is a residential function that is occurring at the site, but it does allow for some limited allowance based on some conditions to run a business, provided the business is not discernible and that the area still maintains its residential character. But like I said, we'll talk more about the home occupation standards. Okay, so this graphic is a larger scale look at the property. Again, to orientate you, the lower left-hand corner of the property is the corner. Country Gables is the roadway to the south. 81st Avenue is the roadway to the west. Again, the property, about an acre, is composed of a main residence, an accessory building number 2, and then in blue you'll see we've identified an accessory building in the far upper right-hand corner. That's the accessory building wherein the applicant is requesting to do a use permit for a martial arts studio. Provide some context photos now. This is a vantage point from that intersection, so this is looking at the site from 81st and Country Gables. If you look at the lower left-hand corner, this is from Country Gables looking north, so this is essentially the western half of that property looking north. And then to the right is also on Country Gables. This is the eastern half of that property, and you can see the hedge. Again, the accessory building is to the far north of the property. Obviously, you can't see it from this photo. Some more context photos. So if we work ourselves clockwise, starting at the upper left-hand corner, the view. So if you were inside the property, so you're behind the wall of the property, looking east, essentially from 81st, but inside the property, you can see the subject building identified behind the fence. The photo to the right of that is, again, within the property from the Country Gables frontage, but looking north. The subject building, which is about 840 square feet, is located in the rear of it. And then focusing on the specific buildings, again, on the bottom, both vantage points are the western facades of the building, rather. So let's talk about the proposed home occupation martial arts studio. The proposed hours of operation would be between 4:15 p.m. and 8 o'clock p.m. on Monday and Wednesday, and between 5:30 and to 8 o'clock p.m. on Tuesday and Thursday. So this represents a total of about 11 and a half hours. If you think about the total time given within a week, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it's about 7% of the total time frame in a week that a home occupation is proposed to be in operation. The applicant's proposal identifies a maximum of 6 students per each session, but no more than 15 students a day on Monday and Wednesday, and no more than 10 students a day on Tuesday and Thursday. The property owner in this case is the master instructor. His son also resides at the property and is a substitute instructor. Looking at the schedule on the screen, classes are essentially 45 minutes in duration, and the anticipated class schedule is shown above. So there's a time between the end of a session and the start of a new session, roughly about half an hour there. So next few slides, we're going to talk about the staff analysis of the proposal. So we began our analysis by determining if the use was consistent with the definition in our zoning code of a home occupation. So the zoning ordinance defines a home occupation as an occupation carried out solely by the occupant of the residence, that is subordinate or incidental to the primary function of the principal resident or dwelling unit. So I think a couple of key points to point out here is, number one, the occupation has to be run by the occupant, by the resident of the structure. So in other words, Joe Blow down the street couldn't rent out a resident and run a business there. You have to actually live there, that you're in the building that you're conducting the business. Also, the home occupation has to be run in a manner operationally in which it is secondary. It's clearly secondary to the residential use. The residential use is the primary use and function of the building. And it has to be run in a manner where it is not easily discernible to the surrounding area. So it's essentially a residential area. There's limited accommodations for a home-based business. As I mentioned earlier, home-based businesses are allowed in any residential district, including Suburban Ranch 43, SR 43, as a permitted accessory use if the use meets the general provisions within our zoning code. If the proposed home occupation does not meet all the stated criteria, it may still be considered if a conditional use permit is obtained. Now, in this instance, as we were looking at all the criteria, for example, we have an item that says you can't have more than one business caller per hour. So in this instance, they would exceed that portion. So that then kicks the home occupation, which would be permitted accessory, into applying for a conditional use permit. And that's the reason for the conditional use permit case. So in analyzing, staff evaluated the proposal for consistency with the home occupation definition. So in most circumstances, as you would imagine, a martial arts studio, typically a commercial business located in a retail or employment center. And that's basically they usually have more classes, longer duration of classes, more times. In the applicant's narrative that's in your packet, the property owner noted his desires to scale down from the commercial operation by limiting hours and number of classes traditionally associated with a martial arts studio. The business would be in a private setting of his personal residence, located in an accessory building located at the far corner of the property, adjacent to an existing commercial stable. Again, as I mentioned, employees would be limited to the property owner and his son, the instructor, both instructors there. Based on these factors, it was determined by staff that the proposed size and scale of the use is consistent with the definition of the home occupation in the zoning ordinance. However, it is also true that the studio would be considered atypical for an accessory use. So what we looked at is we looked at other analogous types of uses in the zoning ordinance that are also permitted within any residential district. Now, within a residential district, there are, as I mentioned, there are some non-residential uses that are permitted, and that includes things like schools, group homes, religious facilities. In the SR 43 district, there are other non-residential uses that are permitted with a use permit, including bed and breakfast, nursery, commercial farms, commercial breeding, and kennels. What we looked at is a preschool or daycare center within the residential district that is permitted as a conditional use. We saw that type of use as most analogous to what the applicant is proposing. We believe the preschool and the daycare use has many similar aspects or characteristics in common with the proposed martial arts studio. And so again, as I mentioned, we utilize that as a baseline for comparison in our analysis of the conditional use permit criteria. So the zoning code states that permitted conditional uses, such as the preschool or daycare, may be appropriate in specific locations within certain zoning districts only when designed, developed, and operated in a manner which ensures compatibility with other adjoining uses. So the code also establishes other criteria that we look at in evaluating the conditional use. And it includes things, it's not limited to, but it includes things like noise, does it produce dust, vibration, illumination, what is the impact on the surrounding area from a traffic volume standpoint, ingress, egress to the property, parking, or impact on public services. So those are some of the things we look at and determine whether the use permit is compatible with the area. So for the next couple slides, I'll go over the results and how we compared how we prepared the martial arts studio to the daycare preschool center use. So looking at the first row to the top, number of students, a preschool daycare center would be allowed to have in the code up to 10 students per day. So over a 5-day-a-week period, that would result in a total of 50 students. The proposed martial arts studio would similarly allow up to 50 students within a condensed 4-day schedule. Next row down, when we consider pickup and drop-off times, preschool centers generally have 2 distinct drop-off times and potentially up to 3 staggered pickup times each day, which counts for the majority of the traffic associated with the business. The martial arts studio would have 3 drop-off and pickup times on Monday and Wednesday, and 2 drop-off and pickup times on Tuesday and Thursday. So we believe the condensed 4-day schedule contributes to the additional number of events on the 2 days. However, When you look at the total number of trips in totality, the overall number is less than what a typical preschool daycare center would have. So from an operations standpoint, which is the third row, you know, preschools have both indoor and outdoor activities, while classes at the martial arts studios would be limited to indoors only. There could be no classes outside of the building. The last row, vehicular trips, based on past enrollment, the majority of martial arts students are family members. This trend is expected to continue and is anticipated to result in a reasonable number who will carpool. Preschool daycare facilities may have some siblings in attendance. The majority will be individual students, however, so the ratio will be more like one vehicle per student. So in summary, again, the surrounding area is primarily comprised of large lot residences. There are several schools, churches, and limited businesses within the immediate area, which account for the majority of existing traffic on 81st and Country Gables Drive. These organizations and businesses regularly have events outside of normal core business hours, both during the week as well as some on the weekends, particularly with the religious facilities. In staff's judgment, resulting traffic from the studio during peak periods during drop-off and pickup times would not create an unusual volume of traffic in comparison with existing volumes in the area. Parents that are staying on the property during the kids' sessions will be directed to wait inside the residence. Parking for the studio would be contained within the property away from adjoining residents to the south. So if you're reflecting back on the photo that I showed you from 81st Avenue, looking into the site, there is a fence. They've pushed slatted material over the fence, so from 81st, viewing in, you can't easily discern the building from the 81st Avenue roadway. As you know, we do have a citizen participation program. When the application came in, we do provide a notice of application to all property owners within a 600-foot radius and all registered HOAs within a 1-mile radius. We do that also for the notice of hearing application, notice of hearing rather. The applicant did hold a neighborhood meeting held on June 2nd at Paseo Verde Christian Church. There were 5 property owners in attendance from the county island. The applicant did submit a citizen participation report and noted that the neighbors, the main concerns from the meeting that were issued by the neighbors were concerns with having a business in the area, additional traffic, parking, and noise generation. Since the meeting, the applicant has revised a proposal to reduce the number of days, as I mentioned, to the 4-day schedule that was presented this evening. Staff has received 25 letters of support from adjacent residences and 7 additional letters of support from past and present students of that facility. We've also received 3 phone calls and 1 letter of opposition from adjacent residents. And this week, we received another letter, and we've passed that out for your review. What I'll show you next is a map, and this is prior to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So looking at the graphic, again, the site identified in square and red. The green stars are those property owners that have signed the petition in support of the home-based business, and those that you see in the red triangles comprise the property owners that provided the city with a letter in opposition or phone calls in opposition. So that identifies that. This next graphic, this is the support and opposition we received to date, because after the Planning and Zoning Commission, we did receive some additional letters. So again, looking at the red triangles, particularly the red triangles are identified with the yellow around it. We received 7 additional letters in opposition after the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing, and we also received 2 letters from properties that are outside of the notification radius, so those additional 2 letters aren't reflected on the map here. So based on our analysis, staff finds that the request is consistent with the definition of a home occupation. The proposed use is similar to, and in some instances, less intense than a preschool or daycare center, which is allowed with a conditional use permit within residential districts. The request is compatible and consistent with the surrounding context and uses in the vicinity of the project, and the home occupation will operate in a manner that will minimize and or mitigate any impacts on the surrounding properties. So before I close, I wanted to say a few things about the conditional use permit. It's important to know that should the conditional use permit be granted by the council, the city does retain continuing jurisdiction. So what does that mean? That means that there would be conditions attached to the to the conditional use permit that limit the manner in which the home-based business operates and essentially behaves in the neighborhood. In the event that it is found that the use chronically does not adhere to the conditions, the city always retains the ability to recommend a change to the conditional use permit. We can recommend that it go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission for either consideration of revocation, possibly modification, or possibly suspension. That's always a right that the city has if the applicant does not operate in a manner consistent with the use permit. The use permit is also specific to the use, the location, and the conditions that we've applied. If there was a change sought, for example, if the applicant wanted to come back and expand the hours or change the hours, that would require an amendment to the use permit, so that would require a similar process. The use permit would have to go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Moreover, if the conditional use permit was discontinued for a period of 100 continuous days, the conditional use permit could be terminated. So in closing and in summary, the Planning and Zoning Commission did make a decision to approve the conditional use permit on October 16th. It was a unanimous decision. The conditional use permit was appealed to the City Council. Your options before you this evening are you can act to uphold the decision by the Planning and Zoning Commission. You can act to uphold the decision with perhaps some stated modifications to it. You can reverse the decision, thereby denying the use permit, or you can continue action to another date if the applicant is also in concurrence with the request. So again, the recommendation of the staff is that the City Council affirm the Planning and Zoning Commission's October 16th decision. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, first, we do a public hearing. I'm going to open a public hearing at this time. This is the public hearing on the conditional use permit appeal, 81st Avenue and Country Gables Drive. If you have not submitted a speaking request, please come up and you now have an opportunity to come up and speak to the council. If you've submitted a request, I will call upon you after we close the public hearing. Anyone care to speak to this application? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. And we will go to comments from residents. Mr. Gilbert, would you like to speak first or last?
Good evening. For your record, my name is Paul Gilbert, 701 North 44th Street in Phoenix. I'm here on behalf of the applicant this evening. Our firm has had the pleasure of representing these fine people as we've worked our way through the process. We stand before you with the posture of having a unanimous Planning Commission recommendation of approval and strong staff support. I'm always a little bit taken back and frankly intimidated to follow Chris. He does such a thorough job. I don't know. I have challenges coming up with something new to say because I think he's covered it effectively and very well. However, since I'm paid by the word, there are a couple of things that I would like to briefly note. The overwhelming, and I hope you remember that slide that was put before you this evening, the overwhelming members of the neighborhood are in support, and many of them are here tonight. In fact, Mayor, with your permission, may I ask those in support to stand this evening? Well aware this isn't a publicite, but still I think it'll save us both some time. So if those in support.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tim and Susan Elliott purchased this property in 2013. The property was in foreclosure when they purchased it. It was run down with dead grass, dead leaves, dead trees, and a real eyesore. You can see from the photos that were shown you this evening, they have taken that and brought it into a first-class home and a real tribute and addition to the neighborhood. They constructed walls, spent over $100,000 to fix and update the property with landscaping and screening, and it is their family home. Tim Elliott has 30 years of experience in the martial arts training and intended, when he bought the home, to offer private lessons as a home-based opposition. You will hear tonight that the Elliots commence this operation without the proper entitlement approvals. We plead guilty to that. We did it. We're not hiding behind that. But in fairness, since it was a school, the Elliots thought, I think with some modicum of logic at least, that this was a permitted use. Immediately and importantly, once it was called to their attention that this was not entitled for the use proposed, they ceased that use and have ceased that use until currently. So once they were notified that they were not in, that they were in violation, they terminated the use and have stayed in conformance with the ordinance since then. A bit about martial arts use. It's a low-intensity, home-based occupation. All instruction is provided by 2 people who live on the site, and private training is for small groups only. It is not like a large commercial art studio or gym. I just wanted to, again, emphasize that we only have 2 to 3 classes a day, Monday through Thursday. Everything is conducted indoors. I don't need to rehash the staff's presentation, but the City of Peoria zoning ordinance does allow residents the opportunity to conduct home occupations as accessory uses to their primary dwellings. This is exactly what is taking place on this property here. There are 2 types or 2 levels of home occupations under your ordinance, those that are allowed by a matter of right and those that require a higher level of review and a conditional use permit. In our case, we comply with all the requirements for the lower level, which would allow this to be performed as a matter of right, with the sole exception that we have more than 1 student on the property. So that triggers us into the second level and requires the conditional use permit. But I think it's instructive to note how close we came to qualifying this use without even seeking the conditional use permit. The process has also resulted in effectuating some significant reductions in the extent of the use and some compromises that have been made by the Elliots to make this property more compatible with the neighborhood and to comply, frankly, with some of the guidance that they receive from your staff. We've worked very closely with your staff, as is evidenced by the staff recommendation of approval for this application. The Planning Commission had a very lengthy hearing on this matter on October 16th. It was attended by 6 members, and every member of the Planning Commission, after a very thorough and lengthy and prolonged review, hearing all the testimony and full public hearing, voted unanimously to support this application. This wasn't a split decision. It was a unanimous decision. The applicants for this appeal live in the county and are primarily to the south. They are asking to have this reviewed. Some of their claims include the following. 1, and I think you will hear it again tonight based on what we heard at the Planning Commission. 1, that this will allow a commercial use in the neighborhood. This is simply not true. This is a canard that's often used to try to defeat home occupations. This is the camel's nose in the door. This is going to open the floodgates to commercial. This use is a home occupation. It must be an accessory and not a primary use. That's not a commercial use on the property. Not to mention the fact that there is continuing oversight, and one of the beauties of a conditional use permit is that you are allowed, if there are complaints, to call this back in and review it and make sure that the applicant is living up to his commitments and requirements. The second argument was that this would be bring crime into the area. I've never quite figured this one out. It would be quite an anomaly to have a martial arts studio promoting crime, but I think it's obviously and patently clear on its face that we will not contribute to crime or vandalism. They're arguing that there will be an increase in noise. We remind you that there are no more than 6 students at any one time. All training will be inside the accessory building. The closest resident, we have a little slide for you here, demonstrates this. I'm hoping we can get it up. We had it loaded and ready to go. Let me keep going. But the closest residence to this use is over 275 feet away. Thank you. You now get a view of what we're talking about. The majority of those who are opposed live more than 500 feet away. You'll note in green, that's the little martial arts building up in the northeast corner of the site. We placed the building back up against the very back of the site, so we're the furthest away from the residential neighborhood. Now, while that slides up, I ask you to take a look at the uses that are adjacent to our site. To the west, we have a very fine active church. To our north and to our east, we have a commercial horse boarding facility. These uses are fine. We have no quarrel with those uses, but it also demonstrates that these uses basically are not affected by this use, and the only ones that could claim any effect are residents who live across the street, the majority of which are 500 feet away. You will also be regaled with an argument that this will cause an increase in traffic. Let me just succinctly summarize our position on that by quoting from your staff. Country Gables Drive is a public roadway, and your staff has found that the traffic from this home occupation will be indistinguishable from the background traffic. So, where are we in conclusion? This is a good use. The subject property is their home. They have fixed it up. They've abided by the ordinance once it was called to their attention that they needed to go through this conditional use permit process. Like thousands of other Peoria residents, they want to conduct a home occupation out of their residence. We have 25 letters in support. We have far and away the majority of the neighbors who live in the area who are here in support, as indicated by those who stood early. This is not spot zoning to commercial, nor will it set a precedent for commercial zoning in the residential community. Your professional staff has given a very detailed, and I submit eloquent, justification for this conditional use permit. Your Planning Commission has voted unanimously to approve it. We hope that you will uphold the decision of the Planning Commission. Thank you, Mayor. That concludes my remarks.
Thank you very much. Steve, I'm going to mess up some of the pronunciations. I want to apologize in advance. Steve Treguboff.
You did a very good job.
Oh, thank you.
Dear City Council members, my name is Steve Treguboff, and I'm a lifelong resident of Peoria, a teacher at Peoria High School and a practicing green belt in American Kempo Karate. I am here in support of the residents appealing the conditional use permit of the private self-defense martial arts studio. I am troubled by the choice to allow a commercial business with many customers entering and exiting the property to operate in a residential zoned area. Directly 4 houses west of this address, the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors rejected a business named One Step Beyond Incorporated from operating in a residential area. Since then, One Step Beyond relocated their business in the Peoria city limits at 9299 West Olive Avenue, Peoria, Arizona, and are having great success in our city and for the community they serve. The purpose of this statement is not to compare Maricopa County to Peoria, but identify a precedent set in the same residential neighborhood by a nearby municipality. What also troubles me, other than the entering and exiting of many customers of the business in a residential area, is why we have residential and commercial zoned areas in the city, but we do not follow the principles of these zoned areas. As I drive around our city, I am constantly faced with seeing empty big box stores, strip malls with no tenants, and commercial buildings with no customers. I do not see the need for businesses to locate themselves where people have built their home to reside in peace, away from the hustle and bustle of business. We don't see people looking to set up their homes in a vacant strip mall, pad, or big box store for a reason. If we're going to continue to allow businesses to set up shop in residential areas, then why do we have commercial and residential zoned areas in the first place? I think this martial arts studio is a great business for the city and the community as they serve and as a business. They have been in operation for a number of years, and I think they need to continue to operate their business. But let's have them do that in a commercially zoned area where they can also have them support the surrounding business area and fill those vacant store spaces that are such an eyesore in our community. Please allow this business to operate, but allow them to operate in a business established area like other martial arts studios in Peoria, and preserve the beautiful residential area for the homes they have established. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Melinda Storm.
I'm here tonight again in opposition of introducing commercial business to a residential area. As mentioned in past meetings, the Elliots did do their due diligence when they purchased their property. I know this to be true because I saw the surveyors, I saw the stakes, I saw how everything was laid out. I'm directly across the street, Strom, across from the resident. All the work done to this property in regards to this commercial business was consciously and knowingly done illegally, as well as conducting business illegally, consciously and knowingly. When the city shut the business down, they didn't choose to the residents didn't choose to shut it down. The city shut it down. When the city shut it down, the homeowners began to beg for forgiveness in the way of rezoning the property, applying for a building variance, building permits, and now this conditional use permit. All of these acts of forgiveness are after the fact that the city shut down illegal commercial business in a residential area. As well, the property owners began to play the victim as to gain support from neighbors in the area. So much that I had a neighbor approach me with a proposed hypothetical threat. The hypothetical threat presented to me, it was, if they don't get this, they and the property owner to the north may sell to investors. Is that what you want to happen? Is that what you want to see happen? My answer to that hypothetical threat tonight is yes. I would rather see not commercial business, but I'd rather see residential homes in a residential area rather than a commercial business. The staff analysis indicated that the traffic associated with this commercial business would not pose a significant increase to the already high volume traffic in this residential area. The addition of one vehicle, just one new vehicle to a residential area poses a threat to the safety of every resident that walks, bikes, jogs, and rides horses in this area. I presented this board at the first board meeting a picture of a vehicle accident involving a bicyclist at the very intersection where the business will be, and it was disregarded. Why is our safety less important than the introduction of commercial business to a residential area? These are just people. They have labored words with each other when one runs into the wrought iron gate. They have a son that pushes his vehicle down the road before starting it in the middle of the night, not to be heard by his parents. As soon as the property owners met with opposition, In their quest to introduce commercial business to a residential area, they began portraying themselves as victims. They are not the victims. They consciously and knowingly remodeled and
Ma'am,
built.
I'm going to stop you there. I don't allow personal attacks during public comment.
I apologize, sir. These are our homes, a place to relax and enjoy and entertain family and friends. A residential area should be free of stress related to the principles and methods associated with the active profit. There has been no evidence provided to support that introducing commercial business to a residential area would be beneficial to the residents. What does this commercial business bring to this residential area so significant that would convince the city to introduce a potential for crime, noise, and other nuisance such as added traffic and most definitely decreased home values? This is our neighborhood, and this is our city too. Why is this property owner's quality of life more important than ours? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Robert Storm?
Good evening. Thank you to the council for letting me speak tonight. Let me tell you, I live at 8031 West Country Gables. I'm the closest resident to this resident. I'm Robert Strum, and I'm against this. They're asking what is called spot zoning, one person amongst hundreds that wants something different than the rest of us. This area is like a historic area. It's like Peoria High School or Old Town Peoria. People come to this area just to drive through and see the horses, the houses, and the lifestyle that we live. This is what Peoria was built on, horses and irrigation. This is something we need to preserve. We don't want to bring commercial into this area. Then who's next? Am I next? Why not me next? So let's conserve this thing, and let's keep the safety from my family from anything that businesses bring negative into the area. Okay, there's been some talk about that there's been a conditional use permit and variance on this property. And there was talk tonight about the board being totally for this. Well, on the variance, it was a split decision. Or actually, it was probably the conditional use. But anyhow, I just want to talk about what I saw at one of the variance meetings. And I'm just going to step right over here. And the lawyer for the property in question was sitting like this, and one of the board members got up and slapped his foot like that from the board and slapped it. I saw that as a conflict of interest, or at least the perception of a conflict of interest. And so, I'd like this council to take that into effect on really what was that? And they exchanged verbal words of whatever, I don't know, but I think that was inappropriate at least. Let me get these glasses here. The variance was denied at first by the board, and then the LH retained the lawyer, and I don't know, the city seemed to be, and the zoning and planning seemed to start favoring what they were requesting, and I'm not sure why that was. The property owner to the north, he stopped me Sunday, and he said that their fence line and that building are on his property, and he said he had from the city that he would have the last say-so on what happened to that property and building there. Now, I don't know if that's for sure or not, but I know that the building is, needs a variance because it's on the property line there. And he's saying actually that there was some kind of a deal made that he was going to have to sell them that fence line and part of that building for them to have a complete piece of property with that building, on his property. I don't know if that's a fact or not, but that's what he stated to me. Okay, they're trying to, and the city made this comparison too, that it's like a daycare. I think that's it's somebody's opinion, but daycares, their students usually sign up and they're usually there for the whole year. The same people come. But karate, I mean, you're going to probably change weekly, daily, maybe monthly, but it's not going to be the same people. So it's going to be people coming in and out. And, you know, I want safety, security where I live, you know, free of crime. And, you know, when you keep bringing different people into an area, and as my wife stated, there's already been the sign that they posted for the conditional use permit was already graffitied, 666 with upside down cross. So they've already brought crime into the area. That bike wreck, I was out front, I seen it. He was completely in his lane where he should have been the bike. But I mean, traffic comes through there. We don't need any more traffic. Like my wife said, one more car is too many. Okay, their lawyer got up and said that they started the business before their license and permit. They did. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're going to have some other people get up and speak, but I haven't heard, and there's been about 7 meetings on this, about the Whereas residents out, but I haven't heard one real reason why the city should allow them to really have this karate studio. We've given many reasons why they shouldn't have it, but I don't know, I haven't heard one real reason to allow them other than they just want it.
Sir, I'm going to ask you to wrap up your comments. I've got 5 more speakers.
Well, it does open up the business, the area for more businesses, and what this has created is like the Hatfields and McCoys in that area now by somebody wanting something different than the rest of the people. And there are, like I say, it's the Hatfields and McCoys over there, and I want to thank you for letting me speak. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any.
Thank you. Next speaker is Tina Yoder.
Have to go low. I'm Tina Yoder. I live at 7970 West Country Gables Drive. So I'm a neighbor to the Elliots on the north side of Country Gables, which happens to be the city side. I've lived there for 20 years, seen a lot of changes in the neighborhood. I've seen it go from largely agricultural to just a different, like a mix of things. And I'm in support of the Elliots. One of the things that I know many of us sort of ponder is how do we use this incredible resource that we live on, which is land, irrigated land. And I know that one night I went for a walk in the evening, and it was in the window before the Elliots knew that they were not in compliance. And they had a small group of students on the lawn, and they were doing like their classes. And as a teacher, I was just like excited. I saw it and I said this, I thought to myself that this is amazing. Here are young people learning discipline and rigor, building self-confidence. It brings a new vitality to our neighborhood. I thought it was a wonderful thing. I still do. I think if I have anything that I would suggest is I think they should be allowed to have their classes outside. They have a beautifully landscaped area that's screened, so it wouldn't be like, you know, for everybody to see, but it would be a really good use of the land. So I'm in support of the Elliots. They're lovely people. They've kept us well informed. They've been very responsible about how they've tried to move through this, the whole process. And I just wanted to say I'm in support.
Thank you. Melissa and Sheldon, I think is Lawrence.
Hi, good evening. My name is Melissa Lawrence, and I live at 14922 North 76 Lane, just a few blocks away from the Elliott's residence. By way of introduction, I am a City of Peoria resident, a former teacher in the Peoria Unified School District, and most importantly, I'm also a mom to a precious 12-year-old boy. I live, work, invest, and play in Peoria. As a Peoria resident, I support the opening of the studio on the Elliott's property because I believe that the Elliott's have a vested interest in our neighborhood, community, and city. Endlessly and tirelessly, the Elliott family worked to make their vision and dream become a reality by turning an abandoned property into a martial arts studio and home. They have brought life to that corner property, creating a beautiful place of tranquility and peace, a beautiful place for their Ha Rang Do family to practice their art form. This tranquil and peaceful place for the students to practice their meditation and increase their concentration of their art form is not feasible in a commercial setting. As a former teacher, I support the opening of the studio on the Elliott's property as well because of all the benefits martial arts provides to the growing mind and body of a child. Many children have excess energy to burn off. Master Elliott's private academy is a smaller and more intimate class setting where he can guide them in redirecting all of that energy in a positive way. As a mom, I support the opening of the studio on the Elliott's property because they have added to the values and quality of life of my sons. Once Shelton became an active member and his training progressed all the way through to a black belt, we saw so many wonderful ways this style of martial arts and the Elliott family benefited our son. From his education, to his confidence, to his sense of self, to who he is as a person, both on and off the practice mat. My son embodies the rules and the values of Ha Rang Do. The Elliott's dream is not to have as many people in and out of the studio as possible. No. Their dream is to have a private, peaceful, and tranquil academy on the same property as their home. They are not opening just a business. They are opening their home to us, their family. Thank you for a moment of your time to express my support of Elliott's vision and dream. They are a family of Christian values who benefit our neighborhood. A family that extends beyond the walls of a private martial arts studio and into the community we call Peoria. I'd like to turn the mic over to my son, Shelton. Go ahead, you're fine, honey.
Hi, my name is Shelton. I am 12 years old and in the 6th grade. I have been with the Ha Rang Do family for 4 years now. My parents chose Master Elliott because my dad practiced with him when he was a teenager. My parents said nothing but the best master would do. I began my training when the academy was on Bell Road. Their new location at their home is much more personal, and I really enjoy the attention I receive with smaller class sizes and their home studio such more peaceful for meditation and concentration. The journey of working towards my black belt has taught me several things about myself and my life. I learned about dedication, perseverance, listening, focusing, respect, courage, and community. I know these things will help me every day of my life. In addition to those lessons, I have learned about the rules and virtues of Ha Rang Do students live their lives by. I have learned to live my life according to the 5 rules and 9 virtues of Ha Rang Do. I will continue to do so for the rest of my life. I am now and will forever be a student of the Ha Rang Do Academy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Brian Reed.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, and council members, thank you for letting me speak tonight. My name is Brian Reed. I'm the senior pastor of Glendale Christian Church and an adjunct professor at Arizona Christian University. And I'd like to speak tonight on behalf of Mr. Elliott from 3 different perspectives. Firstly, I was a music major in college, and I have had the experience of teaching private piano lessons out of my residence as a home occupation. It's something that's permitted by right. No use permit beyond a business license is necessary to do so. And right now, both the city of Peoria and the Maricopa County, where all of the opposition letters have come from, allow home occupations to occur. This is something that can occur by right, and a private one-on-one martial arts lesson would be allowed under this use. So to put it in perspective, if Mr. Elliott wanted to teach one-on-one private lessons, he could teach up to 2 lessons per hour from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. That's up to 30 private lessons per day, and would not even need a conditional use permit to do that. So the reason Mr. Elliott is applying for a CUP is because he wants to teach small groups of 5 to 6 people at a time, rather than one-on-one lessons. And the reason he wants to do that is because a small group setting is the optimal environment in which to learn martial arts. From a practical self-defense perspective, practicing techniques in a group of people who are of different sizes, body types, strength, and skill levels is the best preparation for a potential real-life situation. Secondly, I can speak as a student in Mr. Elliott's studio. I first began studying with him when I was a child, about 30 years ago. He's been teaching continuously in Arizona for that long. I had to stop back then because of my family situation, but resumed studies about 2 years ago, along with my 8-year-old son, who's here with me in support of Mr. Elliott. What we love about the studio is that it is a small family environment. It's not like a commercial setting at all. Mr. Elliott has repeatedly expressed that he wants to keep a small studio. He's done the commercial thing. He wants to keep it small and focus on quality instead of quantity. So what you see is a multi-generational group of families who are learning a Korean martial art that promotes strong family ties. Most of the adult students are professionals who work in the community as things like firefighters, police officers, airline pilots, lawyers, school teachers, even pastors. It's this family atmosphere and the mutual encouragement, fun, practical application, and one-on-one intention from a master instructor that makes the studio unique. And on a personal level, it delights me as a father to see my son get so excited to learn these skills and to see him gain confidence and courage to be able to defend himself if it should be necessary. Thirdly, the only question that really remains is there any downside for Mr. Elliott's neighborhood to allow limited small group instruction that requires a CUP versus the one-on-one private lessons that he could do by right without a CUP? The city's planning and zoning staff have done a great job of showing that Mr. Elliott's CUP proposal will not negatively impact the surrounding properties. And I can attest to the staff's evaluation because the church where I'm the senior pastor has been able to scrounge around some time and some space to temporarily allow Mr. Elliott to hold classes on our facility. In the time period that he's been on our facility, we have had no problems. There's been no vandalism or graffiti or any of those kinds of things. Believe me, as a senior pastor, if there was any problem whatsoever with anybody even being rude to a church member, I would hear it. And as a matter of fact, even those groups which meet in the same building, just in an adjacent room, within the same building on our church property, have never been disturbed by the noise. We've gone to ask them to be sure to see if we needed to move them somewhere else. So if noise isn't a problem within the same building that our classes are held, I can't imagine that when the average house is 500 feet away that we would have a problem. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, and council members, I'm asking you to support the recommendation of city staff and the unanimous decision of the Planning and Zoning Committee to allow Mr. Elliott's conditional use permit so that I and the other students can continue our training in this special art in that small group setting that we so greatly value. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Max Enterline. Sure, that's right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Max Enterline, and I am a student of Master Elliott. I hold the rank of black belt, black sash. I have a black belt in Taekwondo. I've done martial art for over 30 years in my life. I could vouch for has an extreme amount of integrity. I could stand here for 3 minutes and talk about that, but that's not really why I'm here. I'm also a planner with the City of Phoenix. I'm a site planner, and I want to talk a little bit about the site plan itself and the stipulations that were well crafted by the planning staff here that help mitigate the main issue of a martial arts studio on a property such as this zoned as SR 43. The main issue isn't dust, it isn't odor, and it isn't on the prohibited list of home occupations in your ordinance. What the main issue is noise and traffic. Well, they compared it analogous to a child care center. The thing that's different about a child care center is when a parent delivers the child in the morning, they leave. So there's 2 trips right there, coming and going. Then later on in the afternoon when they pick them up, say around 3:30, it's now 4 trips in and out. Most of these students are going to be there in the afternoon, late afternoon, or early evening. About half of them, I would say maybe a third, are adults, so they drive themselves in and out. And a lot of the parents that come in to deliver their students, right around rush hour, when you are going to see a very minimal impact because there's already traffic on this street, a lot of these parents are going to stay and watch through the window while their child, works out with Master Elliott and learns all about discipline and dedication. I wouldn't have gotten my master's at ASU in environmental planning if it wasn't for Hua Do. So you can't compare a child at a child care center with a child who is a chess champion, like one of our children is, at his school. These are people that are well disciplined, they are calm, they will not create a problem. As far as the site itself, the left side or the west side is the ingress and egress to the property. So when people drive in, a lot of them will come down 81st Avenue, avoiding completely Country Gables. Country Gables has speed bumps on it, which are traffic control devices, which minimize the speed of traffic going down the road. So you won't have fast traffic traveling down this road. The impact is much less intense than a child care center, which is somewhat analogous to the usage here. So those are some of the main things I wanted to touch on. The other thing, if you notice the pictures that he showed earlier of the site from various angles, they have very tastefully screened walls. There's very nice mature landscaping. I wouldn't hit him with red lines for his landscape violations because he's got tons of trees. They're beautiful. They help mitigate the sound. It's a beautiful property. The color of the buildings is tastefully done like a farming community. If you look at the beiges of the walls and the roof structures, the green trim, it matches the house. It wasn't like that when they bought it. It's a much improved property. So those are the things I wanted to bring up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Jonathan Elliott.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Elliott. I am son of Tim and Susan Elliott. Currently, I am a student at ASU West pursuing a degree in elementary education and planning to be a public school teacher. The reason why I chose to be an elementary school teacher is so that I can impact our youth in their formative years for this new generation. My father, Tim Elliott, is a second-generation native of Arizona, born and raised in Phoenix, and my father has served our country with the U.S. Army, which included duty on the Korean Peninsula in the late 1970s during the Cold War. When my father was a teenager growing up in Phoenix, he joined a local martial arts school as a way to gain physical and mental strength and as an after-school activity. He excelled in martial arts and later pursued it as his career. In 1982, my father opened his first academies in both Glendale and Phoenix, and my father's passion for the past 32 years has been instructing self-defense to thousands of people that have eventually become model citizens. Most of my father's students have gone on to become professional police officers, firefighters, pilots, attorneys, medical doctors, military officers, etc. Now, my father, being in his late 50s, has decided to scale down, leaving the commercial setting to teach in more of a private setting, which will provide a more tranquil, relaxed environment, which is the way traditional martial art teachers prefer to teach. My father's goal was to find an ideal location that would allow him to teach at his residence and eventually retire there. Our family found our current home through our realtor, who's also one of our students, and the home was a bank foreclosed property for over 9 months. The property had been an eyesore for the surrounding neighbors and was putting great and financial resources into. We eventually brought the property back from the dilapidated condition it was in to the beautiful home that it is now, as my father had envisioned. In my father's many years of teaching, he has had the opportunity to give back to the community in the cities of Glendale and Phoenix, and he has offered special self-defense clinics at various libraries and community centers. These clinics include women's self-defense classes, stranger danger seminars for children's groups, and even Tai Chi classes for senior citizens. My father believes it is one of his civic duties that he continues giving back to the local community through his services. I know that our neighbors care as much for their home and neighborhood as we do. Since purchasing the home, our family has been improving the property on a continuous basis in order to maintain a good appearance. Since our home is on a corner location, we want to create a place that is pleasant to look at and that is an asset to the surrounding area. This is our home and a place where our family and friends can get together to spend quality time. Our family will make the best effort to make sure that our studio won't be a negative impact to our neighborhood, and we will maintain our property to the highest standard. Furthermore, we will help to promote a friendly neighborhood to live in and give a helping hand to whoever needs our support. Dear Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members, you have heard my story. Now I'm asking you to affirm our conditional use permit so that my father can have a place to share his wealth of knowledge, experience, and to pass down his art to our next generation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Council, questions or comments?
Mayor, before you start, this is a bit different than what you normally have. This is not a zoning case. What you have before you is what we call conditional use permit appeal, and the council's role is limited. You're essentially functioning as an administrative review board. So you are limited by two fundamental things. A, the standards in the code is set forth on page 2. You cannot go beyond those standards and impose additional things. You must stay within those standards. Secondly, you're limited by the record that was set forth before the Planning Commission. You cannot consider anything beyond the record that the Planning Commission considered. Because, as I mentioned, you're functioning as a review board. This is not like a zoning case where you have broad legislative discretion to consider anything. You're limited by the record before the Planning Commission and by the standards set forth in your code.
Okay, so if during the conversation we get off track, make sure you say
I will be pushing you back.
Mr. Aves.
Yes, I think I attended the very first meeting that the Elliots had on their request to have this martial arts studio, small martial arts studio. I was convinced at that time that this was good for Peoria. Peoria does allow certain home businesses. There are a couple in my own neighborhood. They add to the character of Peoria, they add to the diversity of Peoria, and they give more life to the city of Peoria. And I don't see any impact here at all on the citizens around. This is tucked way in the back, and this is in my district where they live, and I know I used to go by there before they bought the home and improved it. It was an eyesore. It's a beautiful property now, and I think this is an excellent thing for the city of Peoria, and the home business works there. We have a home business rule in Peoria for a good reason, because some professions and so forth work well out of homes and they don't impact the neighborhoods, and in fact they add to the character of the neighborhoods. Thank you. So I'm going to approve this.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, could I have a motion? Wait just a second. This is a conditional use permit appeal, 81st Avenue and Country Gables Drive. Could I have a motion to reverse, affirm, or modify the Planning and Zoning Commission's decision?
Yes, I move that we affirm the Planning and Zoning Commission's decision.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Questions or comments? Seeing none, please vote. Clerk will record the vote. It is unanimous. Thank you. 33R, land acquisition, Pinnacle Peak Public Safety Facility expansion, Lake Pleasant Parkway and Pinnacle Peak Road.
Yes, Andy Granger, our engineering director, will make the presentation on this item.
Mayor, members of the council, item 33R is a council request for authorization to move forward with the acquisition of 6.1 acres of land for the proposed expansion of the Pinnacle Peak Public Safety Facility. The city currently has a proposed project in our capital program for this year to expand the Pinnacle Peak Public Safety Facility to accommodate growth in the Peoria Police Department up north. This project will construct a new 15,000 square foot facility as part of Phase 1 that will be designed to expand to 30,000 square feet for future growth within the city of Peoria. We conducted a program study this year as part of this project and came up with a couple of options that were viable for the expansion of the facility. And I'm going to show you two of those options right now. The total project budget for this project is $11 million, and $1.4 million of that is for land acquisition. One of the options that was proposed was for a site plan of 11 acres just north of the Pinnacle Peak Public Safety Facility that was appraised. We conducted an appraisal of the entire 11 acres as well as a partial portion of that land. The total appraised value for the 11 acres was $1.86 million. And as part of the program study, a site plan was created for that 11-acre site that you see before you. The southern building on that site is the existing Pinnacle Peak Public Safety Facility. The building closer to Pinnacle Peak and away from Lake Pleasant Parkway in the northwest corner is the proposed future Pinnacle Peak Public Safety Facility expansion at its ultimate build-out of 30,000 square feet. As I stated, we would just build the original, or the first phase, which is 15,000 square feet as part of the first phase of the project. You'll also see closer to Lake Pleasant Parkway, there is capacity for a city service, some type of city services building in the future that is not funded right now, but this site plan does accommodate that as part of the project. The second option that we evaluated was just to buy the southern 6.1 acres of that total 11-acre property. We did an appraisal for that portion also. That appraisal was came back at $1.338 million, and that included severance damages because we're going to split the parcels. If we only buy the southern 6.1 acres, it puts more of a burden on the north parcel for development, and so the appraiser included severance damages of $1.338 million on that southern parcel. However, the program study did develop a site plan for that, and we can still accommodate our needs and our goals for the police department expansion on just that southern 6.1 acres. So again, here you see the ultimate build-out of the Pinnacle Peak Public Safety Facility in the northwest corner of that site, and still being able to accommodate some future city services building on that site. So the city evaluated the two options, met with the landowner last month who owns the entire 11 acres. It's 3 separate parcels. The north parcel is a 5-acre parcel, and the southern 6.1 acres is actually 2 parcels. We could not come to agreement on the entire 11 acres with the landowner. He wanted more money, significantly more money than what the appraised value was for the 11 acres. However, we did come to agreement with them on the southern 6 acres, 6.1 acres, and they were willing to sell the southern 6.1 acres for our appraised value of $1.338 million. So that is what staff was recommending today, is that we move forward with the acquisition of the southern 6.1 acres for our expansion of our Pinnacle Peak Public Safety Facility. Our schedule, if approved by council tonight, would be to complete our program study, our spacing study for the expansion early next year, solicit for a design and construction team that would start the final design in the fall of 2015 to be completed by the fall of 2016, start construction, and be willing or ready to open the new facility by the spring of 2017. And so with that, I'll take any questions that you might have.
Questions, council? Mr. Edwards?
Thank you, Mayor. Andy, first of all, thank you guys for doing your due diligence, and I know you met many times with the property owner to try to come to an agreement, because I know you've kept me apprised of what's going on. And it's unfortunate that we weren't able to get all of the land that we need, but nonetheless, I think I'm happy with the property that you've come up with. This area is in need of an expansion with the growing community, Camino del Lago to the east and to the build-outs of the north. This is a key area that needs expansion. I think the area that the facility that we currently have meets our needs now, but 5 or 10 years down the road, I don't think it will. And so I want to congratulate you for doing this work, and I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Mr. Ames.
Yes, you have to wait until 17 to have it done, or can it be done sooner than that, or is it a budgetary matter, or what?
It's more of a timing issue. We're going to move as fast as we can. We'll have to finish our program studies so that we can develop a scope of work for our consultant and our contractor, who will then go and solicit for the final design. We'll push them as fast as they can go. However, we feel like this is an adequate schedule. It may go a little bit faster than that.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none. This is 33R, land acquisition, Pinnacle Peak Public Safety Facility expansion, Lake Pleasant Parkway and Pinnacle Peak Road. Could I have a motion?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Edwards, seconded by Mr. Ames. Please vote. The clerk will record the vote. It is unanimous. Thank you very much. Next is 34R, Amendment Council Policy CP 1-10, Council Subcommittees.
Brent Mattingler, Chief Financial Officer, will make a brief presentation on this one.
Thank you, Carl. Back at your October 28th City Council meeting, Council directed staff to bring back to you an amended council policy regarding council subcommittees. Your direction at that meeting followed 2 study sessions on this topic in August and October this year. If council tonight adopts the new policy or an amended policy, the finance department will periodically provide you with a listing of the major procurement solicitations that are starting the process. And so that would provide you with an opportunity to request that a particular solicitation go to before a council subcommittee or to the city council. The red line version, if you will, of your council policy 1-10, drafted by the city attorney, is included in your council agenda packet tonight, and the city attorney can perhaps briefly discuss the main revisions that he made to that policy.
Mayor, Council, pursuant to your study session, the policy has been revised. The changes are as follows. First, procurements are now defined as a policy matter that may go to a subcommittee. And secondly, unlike the remaining types of subcommittee matters, procurement matters don't have to go to a study session. They can go directly to the council. And it also provides that if a council member requests, the mayor or the city manager can bypass the subcommittee process and bring the procurement matter, whether it be a solicitation or a bid, directly to the council, so that you don't have, one of the issues that I know came up in the Phoenix policy was that all of their solicitations, if they went through the subcommittee process, there wasn't a bypass means, and here there's a bypass means where that solicitation could come right to the council versus the subcommittee. And all of those changes which you directed were incorporated. Also, finally, you had indicated that you wanted the staff to report back to the subcommittee periodically results of the procurement in an informational report, and the policy provides for that. And so with that, I'd be pleased to answer any questions that you have. And this is simply an amendment to Council Policy 110 to implement the direction you provided at the study session on October 28th.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Hearing none. This is 34R, Amendment, City Council Policy CP 1-10, Council Subcommittees. Could I have a motion?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Rivero, seconded by Mr. Ames. Please vote. Clerk will record your vote. It's approved 4-3 with Bill Patena, myself, and John Edwards voting no. 35R, Funding Authority Sports Complex Stadium Amenities.
And Andy Granger's back with us.
Thank you, Carl. Mayor, members of the council, this is a follow-up to 2 study sessions that we've had this year, one in June and one last month on an update on the stadium improvements. And this is the actual formal request for authorization to fund additional stadium improvements at our Peoria Sports Complex in the amount of $3.6 million that is a result from savings on several of our other capital projects. Just to give you an update on what's going on at the stadium right now, these are actual aerial photos that were taken last week on some of the progress that we're making on construction out there. In the top photo, you'll see the souvenir store in the middle, which is our new building out at the Peoria Sports Complex. Looks a lot taller than all of us anticipated, but it will blend in very nice when it's completed. It's a new 2,200 square foot souvenir store on the first story. On the second story will be a new concessions area. On the bottom right, you see another perspective of the new building and a walkway that will also act as a social area from that concession area on the second story over to the third base seating bowl. That will be a nice amenity and improvement to the stadium. In the bottom left corner, you see the tiered social seating area, which is going to be new behind the left field bullpen, which will be another social area that will have a tent over it, a temporary tent for this year, looking to construct a permanent tent in the future in that area of the field, of the stadium. Our current budget is $9.2 million, and as we've stated in the past, we anticipate and will be complete in February in time for spring training this year. But as we stated, the last 2 study sessions that were presented, we were not able to fund all of the improvements that were wanted by both the teams as well as what we thought was important to the citizens of Peoria. 2 of the most important aspects that weren't funded that we're proposing council authority today to fund is an interactive kids zone behind the third base seating area, which you can see in the rendering to the left on the slide, as well as the expansion of the third base seating bowl to replace the metal bleachers that are now there, as well as underneath the expansion of the social seating area, a new conditioned social space that will be able to host up to 200 people for events, either during spring training as well as year-round. If approved today, our schedule is to move forward with design and pre-construction services on this. We've already got a team in place because of the job order contract delivery method to start the design services in next month, and we anticipate being complete with those design services and pre-construction services by May of 2015. We've actually already designed the third base expansion area as part of our first phase of our project. We just couldn't afford it, the actual construction. So we would be able to move forward with a third base social area right after spring training in April of 2015. We would follow up with the interactive kids zone in June of 2015 and anticipate being completed with the construction of the second phase of the stadium improvements by October of 2015 in order not to impact the start of the fall league at the stadium complex. So as we stated at the beginning of the presentation, we are requesting approval for $3.6 million in funding authority for these additional stadium improvements. The savings come from other capital improvement projects. We're not asking for additional funding beyond our current budget. Lake Pleasant Parkway, we were able to find $1.7 million in savings on that project. We were on the Agua Fria truck reliever project. There was $1.5 million in savings because of the favorable low bid environment on that project. And the 91st Avenue Street Improvements project, which is currently ongoing and will be complete by the end of the year, we anticipate at least $400,000 in savings on that project. That totals the $3.6 million that we are requesting today. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Mr. Rivera.
Mr. Granger, you mentioned that we weren't able to satisfy what the teams wanted in the initial conversations. Was this kids zone one of the parts of the project that we weren't able to satisfy with the original?
Yeah, the Padres especially were very interested in the kids interactive kids zone to make our stadium more family oriented, and this is one of the aspects that was very important to them that wasn't able to get funded.
Okay. If these savings weren't in place, would you still be recommending to the council to do this?
We would. It would probably come forward during our normal capital budget process, and it wouldn't be able to be realized until next fiscal year, which would delay the actual construction of, if it was approved and rose to the top as one of our prioritized projects that we'd add to our capital program for the following year.
How did you decide that this was next capital item that needed to be dealt with versus other capital projects that are of interest to the city and the council?
I think it was one of the things that rose to the top as far as what we thought was an interest to the citizens of Peoria. We think the interactive kid zone, as well as the social seating area, will provide increased revenue for the stadium. So there will be some payback from these improvements. And that was during the June study session and the study session last month, is where we presented to council.
How did you prioritize this one over other items?
It was a discussion with management staff within the city and the
truly,
teams.
And just so you know, Mr. Granger, that's my issue. How this item beat out other items that the city could have tackled. I would have preferred if staff would have came to us as the policymakers and asked, hey, is this an item of interest? These are others that you could look at, but you made the determination to go forward to this meeting and decide this is what we think is a priority.
Mr. Ames?
Yeah, my question is, you said it's going to be done before this year's spring training, but it looked like the schedule that you showed, you were still doing some construction, or you'll still be working, but it won't impact spring training? Is that what you really mean?
We intend to be, Vice Mayor Ames, we intend to be complete with the first phase of construction, which is what's currently underway under current contract before this next spring training. The proposed Phase 2 improvements, which are under consideration today, we would start following this next spring training in May of 2015.
Okay, so May, spring training is over? Yeah, it is, but April, we
yes.
still have some, right?
Beginning of April is when the baseball season starts. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, comments? Seeing none, this is 35R, Funding Authority, Sports Complex Stadium Amenities. Could I have a motion? Could I have a second? Moved by Mr. Edwards, seconded by Mr. Patena. Please vote. Clerk will record the vote. It wins 6-1 with Mr. Rivero voting no. Next is call to the public on non-agenda items. We have no requests. So reports from the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor Barrett. A couple of items under my report. First is the customary report on items moving through the council subcommittees. The next item for a brief presentation will be by John Sefton, and this is about our holiday festival coming up, one of the most important and popular of the array of festivals the city has. John?
That's right. Good evening again, Mayor and Council. It is absolutely a week and just a few days before Santa gets to visit Peoria again. It's the 28th annual Old Town Holiday Festival. Will be held Friday, December 5th, from 5 to 9 p.m. in Old Town Peoria, right at the central of Osuna Park. We expect everybody to come out and have a good time, experience live entertainment, a visit from Santa, snow play, inflatables, hay rides, and a kids zone and cookie decorating and all kinds of things for the youngsters to accommodate and have fun. We also encourage all the parents to come and enjoy the opportunity to shop at the Crafters Fair. Several crafters have come out and will be on site to find that unique holiday gift. We're also performing the choral contest at 5:30. High schools will be out, and many of our choral performers will be out to enjoy and to set the tone for the season. The festival will take place again at Peoria and Grand Avenue at the Osuna Park. Parking is free, admission is free, and there'll be slight charges for some of the extra amenities like food and crafties. Thank you.
Thank you, John. The next two items will be presented by Bill Mattingly, our Public Works and Utilities Director. You'll see that he's bringing up an award, and that's the first item that he has. It's the Recycling Excellence Award for the year. Bill?
Thank you, Carl. Mayor and Council, I'm pleased to be here to talk about these next two items. The first one is recognition that the City of Peoria received from the Arizona Recycling Coalition. That's the slide for the next one. Well, I guess we'll let that up there so we can let that stream for the folks at home. On October 22nd, 2014, the City of Peoria was recognized by the Arizona Recycling Coalition for recycling excellence. And there was a number of things that they recognized that we did. One, they noted that we have recycled over 100,000 tons of material since 2007 when we started the recycling program. They recognized us for our ongoing efforts with the Bag Central Station containers, and Council will recall that those are a number of containers that we have at a variety of city facilities where we recycle plastic bags, and those are very heavily used. We continue to host 3 household hazardous waste events per year, 2 at our Municipal Operations Center and 1 up north. They recognize that we created a citizens training program, what we call Sustainable You, which offers training and classes for our residents. And lastly, and I think most importantly, is what the City Council adopted, which was, I think, unique, and that was the city's Sustainability Action Plan. So I'm very proud that we were recognized. I note that on the back of this award, it says 100% bamboo, renewable, sustainable, manufactured in the USA.
You're on a roll, Bill. Keep going.
If you will, I'll talk about this next item. This is an item that we've been talking to Council about. We got direction from Council, and Council provided funding in the current year's budget to promote a new program, and that is the advertising for what our Public Information Office has helped us with, to advertise a 2-can special, which means we are going to be collecting trash and recycling on the same day. So this is a advertising that is promoting that. We're doing something else at the same time. Council will recall we had a citizen address us some time ago and asked us to consider placing the containers in front of the curb instead of on the sidewalk, so that the sidewalks can be accessible to folks who need to use those sidewalks. So we're making that same change on February 2 when we start the same-day collection. And last but not least, in the context of all of this, it's necessary to change the days that we do collection. And people will find that to be the most difficult thing, I think, to accept about this whole program, because we're all creatures of habit. We're used to setting our containers out on certain days. But in the context of going to a single-day collection, obviously, these changes need to be made. So all of this will start February 2nd. You see this. We're advertising in the Peoria Times and other publications. You'll see our solid waste vehicles have the same advertising literature there, as well as on our websites. And we're also providing information as to what your days of collection will be. So with that, thank you.
Okay, wait a minute. Mr. Ames?
Yes, you're right. The biggest question I've been getting is what day is it going to be picked up on? Are you going to be able to have that schedule out too when you send this other information out, so people can get that in their minds about which day will be their day?
Vice Mayor Ames, yes, indeed. In fact, it's going out at the same time. I brought, the slide there showed the same thing that I was holding in my hand, but in fact, the information that we're providing has a map of the city and shows the various zones and the days of collection.
And the other thing, all of them said they preferred it just being one day. They just wonder what day that's going to be. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. And one more point on that, I just note for the council. I had an opportunity to drop into the staff meeting for the solid waste drivers a couple of weeks ago. And Rhonda Humbles, the manager over that section, was having a real good conversation with the drivers and taking their information and ideas and suggestions about how we roll out the program, because, in effect, nobody knows the service better than the people that are actually delivering it. And a real great collaborative effort there, Bill, so please pass that along to the staff. The next item I have is from the Police Department, and Deputy Chief Benny Pena will make a presentation regarding one of our most important and popular youth connection programs from the Police Department. Deputy Chief.
Thank you, sir. Mayor and Council, it's my pleasure to bring you an update over our swag event from the fall. It was last week. I know some of you participated and were able to attend this event. Give you an idea, just give you a background on swag. One of our officers had found out about this. This is a program that we brought to the department a couple of years ago, and what SWAG stands for, Students with Aspiring Goals. And what it does in essence is bring our high school excelling students forward as mentors of students from the feeder schools into the high schools that they'll be attending. And it develops both the younger children that be attending high school, gives them a mentor. It also allows our school resource officers, our police officers, our firefighters, and also partnering with Glendale Police and Fire and Opportunity to be mentors to the high school students. So we have some great opportunities to provide a little direction for some of our high school students as they bring some of the younger students together. And essentially what the program does is we identify those students that are either excelling at the feeder schools or have turned around from low performance to higher performance, and what we try to do is give them an opportunity to see and to be treated for their hard work. In the event this fall, we had the opportunity to partner with Grand Canyon University, I should say, and bring the students down and allow them to attend a basketball game at the arena. We had a partnership with Kohl's that provided some volunteers that also served pizza. We had pizza donated to us, so we were able to bring the students together from all of the Peoria Union high schools together, all of the feeder schools together in one location. And the next part of this is we also allowed them to have some inspirational speeches by a couple of our city leaders, Chief Minter, and also had County Attorney Bill Montgomery come and explain his background. And those of you who've never had that opportunity, he has a very inspirational background from humble beginnings through his success as our top prosecutor in the county. At the conclusion of pizza, inspirational speeches, and just general meeting in the quad area, they were taken to the basketball game. We had the opportunity to follow the band. Grand Canyon University provides a very communal experience. I think they did a great job of recruiting some future students there for us too. Great host. They were very open to us and allowed us to do a great job of working with the students and providing them a safe environment and a great reward for some terrific work in the first half of this first semester here. So that's it. Any questions?
Very good. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
The next item I'd like to mention is not in your printed packet, this is typically a point in the agenda when I recognize the work of staff and we have staff presentations, but at this point I also want to recognize some of the leadership of one of the council members, and it's Councilmember Leone. Many of you know that Councilmember Leone has been active in the National League of Cities for some time. And Mr. Leone has been recently awarded at the recent National League of Cities conference with the Diamond Cum Laude Certificate and the Diamond Certificate of Achievement in Leadership for the National League of Cities, and that's quite remarkable. Mr. Leone has, as you probably all know or will remember, achieved the bronze level, the silver medal level, the gold level, the platinum level, and now the diamond level, which is really quite remarkable, and I think we need to recognize Mr. Leone's leadership. So, thank you. And that's all I have, other than to wish you all a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you. It's time for reports from the city council. Michael.
Hello. As you all know, I'm on Thanksgiving break for a week, so that's good. I also have my grandma and grandpa and my cousins came in from North Carolina and Cleveland, Ohio. I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Leone.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a few things here that I just want to mention. On October the 25th, we had that Halloween Monster Bash, which was great. It's from Centennial Park, it went all the way down to 83rd Avenue, and they blocked it off, and it was something that the first time we've ever done, and it was great. I've talked to some of the residents that lives on that street, and they really liked it, and they said they hope they have it here next year again. But it's really great, and as a judge, I was a judge, and Tony was a judge, and I believe John Edwards was a judge. And I had to pick the cutest. There was 4 of them. There's 4 divisions. And, you know, it's really impressed when you see these kids with these anywhere from 5 months all the way up to 15 years old, when their parents makes these costumes and how cute they are. A lot of them didn't get into this costume parade because they were too busy having fun, and there was a lot of games there, and you know, it was something that the city always does, and we always have a great time at this Hollywood Bash. They had the pumpkin paths, carnival games, parade of costumes, food, and other activities. It was just great, so hopefully next year that everybody will come down. I believe there might have been about, I'm going to say between 20 to 30,000 people there. I'm sure John would know more about that than I would, but it was quite a bit, and they did a great job. All the volunteers, the police department and the fire department that were there just did a great job, and I want to thank them all. I attended, on October the 30th, I attended the United Way Employees Luncheon and Costume, and again, it was just great to see our employees get involved, dress up, and it was just something that if you haven't seen it, I think you should come down to see it, the staff anyway. The staff did a great job, and they had good music there. So I just want to say, another event which is great, and we have this every year, and they always do a great job on this also. Also on November the 5th, we went to Benavia river cutting. It was in Ventana Lakes. John and Bill was there, and I was there. And it's something for Ventana Lakes people that can come down there and get some information and find out what they can do on certain things. I think it's just great that they have it there. There wasn't too many of us there, but it's something with a new office, and they had a river cutting there, and this is something important that Benavia does for our residents, and I want to thank them for doing this. And I also went to, that evening, I went to the Best of the West Awards dinner, and the Peoria Police Department got an award, and Bio and Sprite each received awards. It was great to see them get awards, and when you see your own people going up there and getting the awards, it makes you feel great to know that Peoria really gets involved in all of this, and I think we did a great job on this, and I want to thank the police department also for getting the award. They held a park fest at Country Meadows Park. It was great. We had about 200 to 250 people there. It was exciting. Kids are all having fun. Parents were there, and they had a lot of hot dogs, and I think it was popcorn there and soda. But you know, these events is always great for the community and always great for the families to bring their kids and get them tired out so when they go home, they can go to sleep. I know I did. On the same day, I went to 2 other events, one in Youngtown and one at the church in Peoria. And 3 days, 3 times in one day, I went to an event that was just great. On November the 15th, the 5K run and walk, I know Bob Babbitt did the walk. I think he took first place. I don't know unless he cheated. But it was a great event for Veterans Day, and we do this every year. And there's a lot of people there. And I want to thank Parks and Recreation for doing a great job. Also, in my own subdivision, Bank of America had given a house free mortgage to an Air Force veteran. He's in Peoria. He's my neighbor, and I'm glad to see him. Him and his family is ready to move in. The house was great. They redid the whole thing over, and it was great to help our veterans out. And this we got to do is keep working so our veterans don't think that we forgot them. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless America. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Selma.
Thank you. It's been a busy month, but starting on November 1st, I did attend the Shop with the Cop golf tournament, as many of us did. It is now official. I am a terrible golfer, and everybody knows it. But the important thing is the couple of police officers that did golf with me were able to bring our score into the middle of the pack. So I'm proud to ride someone else's accomplishments, I guess, on that front. But it's for a good cause, and I think all of us, when we get the opportunity, should do that as much as we can, regardless of how good or bad we are at golf. The following day, at the exact same place, was 8th Grade Grill Fest. I encourage those that didn't know about it to go ahead and attend the next one. It was a lot of good food and good drink and good company. It was a beautiful day, and thank you for staff that did a great job putting on that event as well. Finally on, actually 2 more things. I did attend the swag event. I think it's great. The only thing I would say about that is I would encourage our police department to maybe expand that a little bit to include some of the Deer Valley schools that are also in the city of Peoria, up in West Wing and Terramar, the areas around there. I think it's a great event, and I think the kids up there are potentially missing out as well. So it'd be good for them to be included. And then finally, I was able to attend my first National Leagues of Cities conference in Austin, and congratulations to Councilman Leone again for his award. Finally, happy Thanksgiving to all, and God bless America.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor. On the 30th of last month, I attended Kellis High School along with Councilman Leone. We hosted 8 high school students and just had an open discussion during lunch on what topics they were most interested in. And once again, they rose to the occasion and had questions about the new casino that was going in across the street from the school, along with billboards that were going up next to their school and street improvements. Don't ever underestimate kids. They are phenomenal. They have good questions, and I think we were able to have, rather than a 45-minute discussion, I think we ran into, about a 2-hour, Carlo? Where I know you had to leave, but luckily the principal was able to give them some passes to miss one of their classes and continue the conversations, and that's something I'm going to continue to do as often as I can with the local schools. Oh, and the bullying, yeah, they talked about the anti-bullying as well, and they had some great ideas. They're working with the principal, and there was 2 members of the Peoria Unified School District there that were working in conjunction to try to get messaging out to the students. On the 5th of November, I did attend the ribbon cutting at Benavia. This is just another great example of a non-for-profit coming in and working with the city and expanding their services to the north residents. The turnout was phenomenal. It gives the residents of not only Ventana Lakes, but Westbrook Village and all of the residents to the north another opportunity to get services that they may not know about. So I encourage residents to get to reach out to Benavia, call Ventana Lakes, and get some more information about their new facility. The next week, actually that Saturday, I hosted Park Fest over at Country Meadows Park. I believe we had about 250 residents there, neighbors, and John's telling me that it was probably higher, and that's good to hear. We had bouncy zip lines, we had free food, music. We did bicycle giveaway. I gave away 6 or 7 bikes thanks to Walmart donating some of the bicycles, and the kids were just phenomenal. On the 11th, on Veterans Day, I did attend the Westbrook Village Veterans Honor Dinner, hosted 3 veterans from World War II and their spouses, and just phenomenal to listen to some of their stories. One of the gentlemen actually was in the tank division and rode with General Patton during one of the wars. It was phenomenal to listen to some of his stories. He was 93 years old, sharp as a whip, and it was just encouraging that he was willing and able to convey his experiences to me, and something that I really treasured. On the 15th, I also attended the Camino Lago Park dedication, and I think that our numbers were higher than 100. I think that it blew even your expectations, Mr. Sefton, out of the park, or literally out of the park. The numbers were, the people just kept coming in from the neighborhoods, from all sides. It was just a phenomenal event. And then lastly, on the 19th, I attended my second youth discussion at another high school over at Sunrise Mountain with Mr. Patena, and completely different group of kids with completely different observations. What was important over at Kellis was not important over at Sunrise, so it was really interesting to hear the different aspects from their viewpoint, and it ranged from football fields, baseball fields, to irrigation and traffic over on Deer Valley Road. So again, working with them, working with the school districts, and trying to bring their thoughts and their concerns to a higher level of awareness through the city. And again, I want to thank everybody or wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Ian.
Well, I just got back a couple days ago from New Orleans. I was over there for a Future Business Leaders of America conference. I'm one of the national officers for the organization. And while I was there, I actually met a lot of students who were involved in their local youth commissions. And we started talking about different things that our cities individually do. And I mentioned that we had done our future kind of youth economic forum for future leaders, youth leaders, and a lot of them were kind of impressed by what we did in the city of Peoria, and a lot of them are taking that back. So I thought that was important to kind of recognize that the efforts that our city does and the great things that not only our youth advisory board does, but the importance that I think we place on youth, especially here in the city of Peoria. To kind of piggyback on what Councilman Edwards said, I was at a superintendent's meeting with the other student council presidents from across the district, and the superintendent did mention that he heard that you had gone to both Sunrise and also to Kellis. And then all the student body presidents there had talked about the issues, and they said that was great that council was coming out and reaching out to students and talking about different things that were important to them. But overall, I'm having an amazing time so far being involved here in the city of Peoria, and happy Thanksgiving, everyone, and hope you have a great holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rivero. Mr. Patena.
Thank you, Mayor. I too had a relatively busy month. I attended the Best of the West Awards, and I think there were only 7 awards given out, and the city of Peoria actually got 2 of those awards. BioInspire got one, and the police got one for their program. So the city was well represented, and I was really proud of Peoria. I also attended a recognition dinner for One Step Beyond. It's an organization in Peoria that deals with disabled youth and adults, and they recognized their donors and special staff at the meeting, and it was well attended, and it was a good event. I also attended the Benavia opening. And I got to give props to Councilmember Edwards, who was the first one to make contact with the people at Ventana Lakes to try to find an office for them. We now have one at the City of Peoria Library and at Ventana Lakes, and I can tell you this, I believe that the City of Peoria is a better city now for having them involved with our city. They're certainly going to have a captive audience at Ventana Lakes, and like Councilmember Edwards said, they'll be serving Westbrook Village and a bunch of the adult communities in the West Valley. I attended the Camino al Lago Park opening. That was pretty phenomenal. People, like, they were just coming from everywhere. It was quite exciting to see so many kids on the jungle gyms and all of the amenities that they have there, and it's just an amazing park and really state-of-the-art. I also attended the Park Fest. I think that was at Apache Park, right? Apache? Okay. And I'm a big fan of Park Fest. It brings the community together, gives them an opportunity to, have some fun. The kids have bouncy houses. I watched Councilmember Edwards go down a zip line. It was actually pretty cool. And it gets the community an opportunity to get together, and the city community services staff does a wonderful job hosting those. Also, I played in 3 golf tournaments, supported the firemen, the Shop with a Cop, and the City of Peoria Special Needs Group. Councilmember Edwards and I actually golfed with a special needs adult, and his father, and we had a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and I hope that next year more people host special needs adults in that event. I also went and attended the Sunrise Mountain High School, where we met with about 7 or 8 different students, and it was quite interesting for me. It was my first one, and I thought they had some great questions. They're so engaged in the community. It just makes me feel really good to see that these kids are so involved and civic-minded. So that was a lot of fun for me, and I'd like to do that again. Congratulations to Bill Mattingly on getting the award, and to John Sefton for the accreditation. Accreditation is no easy task, and I think the people of you're actually going to be a better department for that, and the people of Peoria will be much better served as an accredited agency. So congratulations to you, and happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes.
Yes, and a lot of you see on the information that we send out that, we did a study, asked citizens how satisfied they were with the city of Peoria in the various areas, and we got a good rating. And we can also relate those different things we asked on the survey to how satisfied people are. And 2 of the things that came up is what we call drivers of satisfaction. One was park and recreation. So it's not surprising that we got that award there. And the second strong one was the flow of traffic, and Carl knows I've been working on that a lot, and we've gotten better in that area, and in the future we need to keep improving in Parks and Rec and in traffic flow and a few others that are what we call drivers of what really makes people happy in the city of Peoria, the city that they live in. And happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and Christmas is coming up too, so Merry Christmas as well.
Thank you. I just have a couple comments. I spent Saturday, the Christmas for the Troops is underway. I want to thank the city departments, and especially I want to single out the communications department, who was a big help in this. They got us promoted on television several times, so the amount of material we collected for the troops that are in Afghanistan and other war zones was incredible. So they did the final pickup on Friday, and then Saturday we went to the Challenger Center, we sorted it. And when you sort 2 tons of material, you're tired when you're done at the end of that day. And it's everything from socks to shaving cream to feminine products, because there are females in the war zone, to laundry soap, to candy, a lot of candy, and things like that. It was very it was very satisfying. Then Monday, we had a lot of volunteers come out and help us. In prior years, it's taken the Lions Club a day and a half or maybe 2 full days to pack it all into the mailboxes. You know, and they're the post office things, you know, if it fits, it ships kind of a thing. And they did it in an hour and a half. And then today, they're supposed to load all the boxes, which is about close to 400 boxes, into the truck. And then tomorrow morning, they're going to go down to the post office. There's a former veteran that serves the post office here who's been the guy that's handled this every year. It's taken him all day. This year, they've gone above and beyond. They're going to open the post office at 7:30, open all 3 windows to Christmas for the troops to get the stuff mailed, because you have to fill out the invoices and actually pay the freight. Then at 9 o'clock, when they normally open, 2 windows will be closed to us, the Christmas for the Troops folks, and we'll finish up with that 1 window. But I really appreciate all the help that all you folks gave us, because we figure, I don't have a final weight yet, we won't have it until after we actually ship it. It's probably close to 2 tons, which is about what we shipped last year. So thank you for all. Believe me, if you're on the other end of that mail, you really do appreciate it. The other thing I want to mention is the golf tournament that Bill was talking about, was to benefit Team Peoria Special Olympics. And they're raising money, and they hope they can raise enough money to send some of their personnel to the international games in Los Angeles in 2015, right? So if a Special Olympics event comes up, please support it. These guys are really something. There was one gentleman there who, when Bill and John offered to take him and his son, who was disabled, go golfing. The kid's pretty big. Dad went out and bought himself a new pair of golf shoes. And when we all turned up at the registration that morning, guess who was wearing the new shoes? I mean, it was really something to see. And finally, yeah, I was at the Veterans Day 5K. I didn't cheat, but I came in first in my division. My division was elected officials. I was the only one. With that, we're adjourned.